Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Well, thank you. And guest tomorrow, even though the radio station, or as you know, some of the more sophisticated people attempt to say the radio station, our group scares me.
Yes.
We actually will have a couple of guests tomorrow.
Oh, will we?
Bill Bender's Sporting News, talking about everything at Michigan and about the game this week, because Bill wrote a great column in Sporting News about, hey, look, Penn State just needs to take care of business, and that can then change the dynamic of all this, which is a great column. And we'll have Neil Coulong on the ever mystical, unbelievable, can you believe they have a winning record, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hey, Matt Canada, what a man.
Yeah, big move. He's down on the sideline now. That changed everything. Maybe Deontay Johnson helped change some things. And I'm not a big Deontay Johnson guy, but he is better than what they have. Despite what you think, he's a little better receiver than George Pickens. No, please. Okay, watch the games. All right.
Watch the game, Steve. What could you be talking about?
Just watch the games. He's the most reliable guy, runs the best routes. Doesn't have the best hands.
No, George Pickens has great hands, let me tell you.
Yes, he does. He really does. So, new day, new story.
Oh, what story about Michigan is there today?
Basically, they've responded to the Big Ten, and they've done it in a rather challenging way. How about that? They've been very
they sent the ESPN headline is wild. It says warns Big Ten about punishment precedent. Warning, like they're going to do something, fire back shots at them.
What are you going to do, leave?
We dare you to leave the Big Ten. We dare you. You want to go join the Mountain West?
Right in Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA. Still got enough firepower. We're good to go with Penn State and Ohio State. So, right, go ahead. By the way, the Big Ten does have a grant of rights.
Yeah, and that'd be a lot of money to have to leave.
What are you going to do, leave? Okay, great.
Because they want to lose more money right now. It's a good idea.
Be like, okay, do what you want. What they're saying now is these other dastardly organizations, Rutgers, Ohio State, Purdue, colluding on their signs.
Of course. And how are they colluding, Steve?
I believe they use tapes.
Yeah.
And
they had conversations and said, "Oh, we saw this. What'd you see?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty much. Oh boy, you can't just keep doing the look at the hand over here, look at the hand over here, look at the shiny object. I mean, that's essentially how Washington works.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to distract everybody by look over here. Here's the big problem.
This feels like they're admitting we stole signs, but look, they did it too.
Right.
But they didn't videotape games, 30 games worth. They didn't do that.
Okay, the problem is still you. And as I did say to somebody the other day, when the number one word associated with you at the moment is allegedly,
it's an issue.
That is an issue. Right? But that's where we are with this. Every day there's something new. And you know what? Okay. What did James talk about this week? The game. At Quarterback Club yesterday, talked about the game. Right? Tonight on the talk show, talk about the game. Now, somebody may ask him about it, but it's just, the players have been talking about the game. Because the game means so much. I'm not going to use the word everything, but the game means so much. And it's and this is what mean, they've done a good job at distracting everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Wake Forest coach has some questions because of what, and his question is, why is the NCAA jumped all over this, and why did it apparently do and say nothing when it was tipped off to what is now known as the WikiLeaks scandal, which victimized the program 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wake Forest coaches were left in the dark of all this. So it's one of the more bizarre ones. Tommy Elrod, former Wake Forest quarterback, was an assistant coach from 2003 to 2013. Dave Clawson decided, in 2014 he's not going to retain him. So Elrod becomes the analyst on the Wake Forest radio network.
Mm-hmm.
Never met him. I mean, the only time I've done anything with Wake Forest has only been basketball. I've never done, a Wake Forest football game. Clawson finally in 2016 works hard. They finally crack the 500 mark, get to 7-6. They get to their first bowl game 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? 20.4 points a game. It's 119th out of 128 at the time. Not great. But there was also an internal investigation that revealed that Elrod had given the team's game plans away.
I remember this happening, being like, he gave away the team's plans? Why?
Yeah. And Clawson's mind was really blown when he ran into a longtime friend at Arizona, and they were at the Fiesta Bowl for some retreat. And this was 2022. This is years later. The coach asked Clawson if anything ever happened to Elrod. Clawson was confused. He said he hadn't been aware that his friend had known about the scandal, but the coach told Clawson he'd actually called the NCAA in 2014 after he got a call from someone he didn't know. He was trying to give him Wake Forest game plans right before they played. So he said it all seemed very fishy and suspicious. He says, Clawson asked, he said, did the NCAA ever get a hold of you? Oh, no. He asked Clawson that question, and Clawson said, yeah. He says, 3 years later. Clawson was said to be incredulous as to why the NCAA didn't alert his staff about this in 2014. So maybe the NCAA didn't feel like it constituted a rules violation. I don't know, he told The Athletic. You'd think that they'd have at least given us a heads up. We were compromised for 3 years. Those 3 years could have been avoided. Clawson has followed the Michigan storyline and can empathize with their opponents. Some of it felt very familiar. He said he knew what it felt like to get got by live scouting. Elrod, after all, had access to all the staff's computers and practice film. So I don't know what happened with Michigan or how it happened, but I know how we felt when we did find out that our opponents had our stuff. You feel violated and cheated. You get bitter.
Yeah.
You get bitter.
He's right.
It's kind of like when Jerry runs a staff meeting.
Oof. Oh. Ooh. Shots being taken.
Oh, no. You want to know why I don't? I don't listen. All right. So you wonder why the NCAA is involved in this, but didn't get involved in our situation. This is a big deal because it's Michigan, but it wasn't a big deal because it was Wake Forest. See, and that is a big point because you know what I've said about James Madison. Okay? Football is a physical, violent sport. It's a sport where kids get hurt playing. To be compromised that much, it puts health and well-being of the players at risk. The NCAA is supposed to be there for all of us, not just some of us. As I said about the James Madison situation,
it shouldn't be a situation. It just should be done.
But you notice they're playing hardball with them. Why? Because they can. Right? Well, they played with Tez Walker. They played hardball with him. Why? Because they feel they can. Okay? Tez Walker's just a kid. He's not strong enough, big enough. Right? James Madison is James Madison. Everybody knows of them as a powerful FCS team. A lot of people may not have known they made the transition to FBS, right? But they can. Instead of sitting there and doing the right thing and saying, hey, you know what? We're all about the student athletes. You guys only played one FCS team this year, Bucknell. You played all FBS. You should be able to play for the conference championship game if the conference says yes.
Yeah.
Sunbelt has to say yes, which means the other members would have to say yes. So, but that's the conference business. But you can go to a bowl game. Right? You can go to a bowl game. Okay. Which also then would mean they're eligible in the college football playoff rankings to see if they would be a group of five. The group of five representative is the highest ranked team. Right? So they can do all, right? But they play hardball with them. Here they get into the fetal position and talk over and over again about, well, we want to cross T's, dot I's, the whole thing. Again, James Madison, no offense, is an easy one to resolve. Number one, you have a lot of bowl spots to fill. Let's just take it from that point of view. You have a lot of bowl spots to fill. You're going to tell me a team that is undefeated right now?
Currently 21st in the AP poll.
Right? Can't fill? Right? And so it's
not great.
Well, and it's also not great because it's in season. That is a problem. It is an in-season situation. I think it would be easier to handle and you can slow walk through if this is March. All right, let's take our time. Let's go through this. Let's check out the money. Let's see what was on the Weiss computer. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that you can sit there and go through. Because it is in season, it's probably more difficult to navigate. And when you've got a group that is delay, which is what Michigan has been doing, they've been delaying left and right. You usually delay when you're concerned about what you have. Instead of, we didn't do anything wrong here. Why don't you guys take a look at what we have here? I didn't do anything wrong. Look at it, whatever you want. Bad. We're good. Right? Instead, it's delay, excuse, delay, accuse other people of something else, delay.
We did nothing wrong.
Right? We didn't, okay, everybody does it. Everybody does it. Look, these people did it.
The staffer's been fired. No more issues.
He's gone, no longer with us, though, right? Okay.
What tapes? There's no tapes.
Right. Over and over and over again, they keep trying to slide this as far as they can out of the picture. And that tells you that
somebody's guilty.
Something isn't right. I will stay in Detroit for a moment. Jason Benetti, who did the Penn State game on Saturday, who's just one of the best. And
Syracuse grad.
And one of the great guys out there. I don't know. Have you met Jason?
I have. He came back while I was in Syracuse for a chat with us, and he's just the nicest person in the world.
I can't say enough great things about him. Well, he had resurrected the White Sox broadcasts. He and Steve Stone, tremendous, right? Well, he's taking the Detroit Tigers job.
Jumping in division.
Yeah. So he's going to take now, I think he's from Detroit.
He is. That was, I believe, part of it.
Yeah. So he's going to take it. Now, the unfortunate part of it is I have been friends for a long time with Matt Shepard. Because Matt was the play-by-play voice of Michigan basketball before he took the Tigers job. So Matt wasn't renewed. So, I feel badly about that. But at the same time, Jason will do a great job with the Tigers. But there you go. Sign stealing. It's just, it's
not great.
Well, it's see, what they're doing is they're making it worse. I think they think they're making it better, but they're making it worse by how they're handling this.
It's like you're peeling a Band-Aid off slowly, and they're like, the slower you peel it off, the better it'll feel. But it's just like rip the Band-Aid off.
Like,
just do it.
This is one of those, like, we're 9-0. We're third. Are they third?
They're third in the college football playoff rankings.
We got a chance to win the whole thing.
We're the villains. We will beat everyone.
Yeah, now we're going to bring in Ric Flair. Woo. Okay, great.
Yeah. Would you like some more positive news, at least?
Sure.
So I don't know if you've seen this, but Luis Diaz, soccer player, he's from Colombia, plays for Liverpool, one of the best players in the Premier League. His parents 12 days ago were kidnapped in Colombia, and it's been a very big thing of like his mom was released like that same day. They had a game he hasn't played up until a couple of days ago. And then his dad, as of a few hours ago, was just found and free, and he is safe, and he is healthy, and he is okay, which is good. So the parents are back. Good. And they are safe. And it's a very big thing in the soccer world. Everyone is very happy for him. That not many times do you see players rally around opponents. Right. He scored a goal in the last minute for Liverpool to give them a point against Luton. And everybody and their mother was celebrating, saying, like, the fact that he's playing while he doesn't know the fate of his father is terrifying. And he played through it. So wanted to bring that up as a big positive here. We're not just negatives and sign stealers here. We are positive, good people.
Sure.
We bring good energy to the world, Steve.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Except for Jerry Valeri and Jason Lord. Outside of them, everything's fine. I said your two favorite names back to back.
It's just hard to rally around anything.
Yeah. So you know what's hard to rally around as well? The fact that the New York Knicks are better than Victor Wembanyama. He's just nothing compared to the Knicks, you know? The New York Knicks are the greatest team that's ever lived. We beat Wemby. We did it.
What is their record right now?
The Knicks are 4-4.
What is San Antonio?
3-5 as things stand.
No. Now I guess the Lakers are also 3-5. They're 3-0 at home and they're 0-5 on the road.
That they are. The NBA standings currently to look at are quite funny. That's the best way to put it. So the Memphis Grizzlies, who everyone thought would be really good, of course, John Morant's out for the first third of the season. They've lost both of their centers for the season, essentially. Brandon Clark will come back towards the end after an Achilles injury. Steven Adams has a knee issue. He's out for the year now. They're 1-7 and the worst team in the NBA.
Okay.
As we all suspected. And then, of course, as you mentioned, the Lakers, the greatest team since sliced bread, are 0-5 on the road. And when LeBron James, I heard this morning on the Low Post with Zach Lowe and Tim McMahon came on and Young Masuk. Yeah. The Lakers with LeBron James on the court are plus 53, I think, plus minus wise. With him off the court, minus 76.
That's a big number.
Yeah, they are an 88 point something offensive rating and a 127 defensive rating, which means they're letting in, like, it's bad.
Yeah.
Who knew? A 39-year-old man is what makes or breaks a team.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
And by the way, the Sixers are 6-1. They beat the Celtics. So
they are 6-1, and they're top in the East.
Yeah.
They're top in the East right now.
Yeah.
They are better off without James Harden, who so far has not looked great with the Clippers, and that brings me joy. But yeah, they're playing well. So are, of course, the Celtics, 5-2.
Yeah, but the Sixers beat the Celtics.
Yeah,
I mean, good win for them. Let's see. There was an interesting story yesterday about Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA.
He went on JJ Redick's The Old Man of the Three podcast and talked for 45 minutes, which I watched. It was very interesting. It was really interesting to listen to him because you don't get to hear commissioners that often.
No, and you should hear from them more instead of a press conference at the finals. I'll say this. The guy that's on more than anybody else that I hear is Gary Bettman. I hear Gary Bettman on a lot of things.
He was on with Pat McAfee last week. He hops on. He's like, yeah, I'll talk to whoever. I know Manfred's tried in recent years to do that more. He's hopped on with Stephen A. a couple times on the First Take. But for the most part, you don't hear from them. I don't think Goodell has ever done a podcast.
No.
We've never heard Goodell speak to anybody outside of just the quick 2-minute hello, goodbye. But Adam Silver, continue. Sorry about that.
Well, no, what's interesting is that Manfred's not good at it. And he may be a brilliant attorney. It's just like the public relations part is a real fight.
Well, the trophy's a piece of metal, Steve.
Yeah, it's a fight for him. Bettman's getting better at it. Silver's very good at it. And the weird thing is Goodell's good at it.
Yeah, he just doesn't talk to anybody.
Just doesn't talk to anybody.
And he is a big guy on social media. He loves all the different people booing him. He riles the crowd up at the draft and does the whole "let me hear you boo me more." He plays into it. He just doesn't talk to anybody.
I mean, it's not like he doesn't have a personality. He does. And when he does media, he handles it deftly. And it's okay.
So Adam Silver.
So he wants to see the NBA covered more like the NFL is. Here's his point. The NBA gets great coverage on ESPN. ESPN falls over itself doing, right? But ESPN falls all over itself talking about the Lakers. ESPN falls all over itself talking about the Knicks. They fall all over themselves talking about maybe the Bucks, maybe the Celtics, and
the Mavs because of Luka and Kyrie and
Mark Cuban. They don't fall all over themselves talking about anybody else.
The Portland Trailblazers, Steve.
All right. So look at the NFL. Tonight's game is Carolina and the Bears. Okay. So we're sitting here right now. What do we know about Carolina? Well, they have Bryce Young, the first overall pick in the draft. Okay. You know their head coach, Frank Reich. Right? And they're considered a young, up-and-coming team. They get a prime spot on Thursday Night Football. The Bears, of course, had Justin Fields, but now this quarterback from Shepherd College in West Virginia is now quarterbacking the team. Okay. Yeah, we know about the running backs. We know about Jaquan Brisker. We know there's a lot of things that we know about on each team. If the let's see, let's pick two teams. If the Memphis, maybe not, Memphis Grizzlies were playing the Portland Trailblazers, what would you know? I was going to say the Sacramento Kings because the Sacramento Kings until last year, what would you know about them? They missed the playoffs every year since, 2006? Right? What do you know about the Sacramento Kings? Does anybody know about the Sacramento Kings?
No.
Right? And you have a series of teams in the NBA that are in the bottom tier that fans know nothing about. And I'm not talking about the heavily invested NBA fan. There's always that core group that knows everything about every team.
But you mean the Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Hornets, the Orlando Magic.
No, I mean everything about the Cavaliers, the Wizards. Outside of LaMelo Ball, how about the Hornets? The Detroit Pistons, despite having all those high draft picks. The Grizzlies have been playing lousy. Nobody really knows much about Utah now that they made all these deals. Portland, right? They don't know much about them. These are the teams that are in contention, for God's sakes.
Even the Denver Nuggets, the best team in the NBA.
People don't know anybody
Nothing.
about. Nothing. Okay? How much do you know about the Toronto Raptors? How much do you know about the Cavaliers? I mean, people don't know much about these
They
teams.
only know about the Clippers. They know about the Lakers. They know about the Knicks, the Bucks, the Warriors, the Suns.
I left the Warriors.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have done
the
that.
Suns because they're supernova. You only know about the teams with the biggest stars. It's like baseball. Baseball, I don't think you could ask a single person like myself about the Detroit Tigers and Jason Benet, and they'd know nothing about that team.
Sure.
Nothing.
Spencer Torkelson.
I've heard his name, but that's it. It's because of just how the media landscape has been built up over years. It was always the Showtime Lakers. It was always the top couple teams we always focused on. But in the NFL, you can discuss the bad teams and say, today, I believe they were discussing the Chicago Bears and how Justin Fields probably won't be there next year.
Right.
That was a whole discussion they had today. You don't hear them chatting about, the Chicago Bulls stink or the Wizards are terrible and Jordan Poole's the worst shooter since Kwame Brown. I know, I'm bringing a lot of names in.
I saw Kwame Brown's first ever game in the NBA.
Okay. How'd you like it?
I remember exactly what I said to the person I was sitting next to. I said, he's the first overall pick? They went, yeah. I said, this isn't going to work.
I saw somebody, quick look on the Wizards. Somebody said, Jordan Poole, how dare we trade for him? He's terrible. He's awful. He doesn't mean much. Why do we do this? We should be a contender. Spoiler for Wizards fans. You weren't going to be contender with Chris Paul on your team. You traded for Jordan Poole, who at least has some upside, but his great name, as many have said, is Tank Commander, because they're going to tank.
Yes. Well, you know what? So, number one, their regular season at 82 games doesn't bring with it a lot of drama. Now, maybe for the particular teams it does, but for the general fan base, again, my conversation is about the casual fan base that likes basketball, but they're only tuning in once April and May come about, and they'll watch the finals. During the course of the year, so Jack Ham asked me about this all the time. Hey, what's the rating on this? What's the rating on that? The rating on NBA games in the regular season are I'm talking about national rating. Christmas Day, they're very good. But now the NFL has, quote, invaded Christmas Day, and guess what? The ratings aren't as good.
Yeah.
He thinks, Adam Silver, the commissioner, that they need to get an NFL style, but that means overcoming the model that at least helped get you to this point. When they were in trouble as a league, it's Michael Jordan and the Bulls against Larry Bird and the Celtics. It's Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons and Magic Johnson.
It's the Showtime Lakers.
It was always the headliner, then the team name. And that's how the NBA promoted itself. And trying to get everybody excited about the stars of the game. Okay. Well, in the process of doing that, which, by the way, was the right thing to do, so I'm not saying they did something wrong here, but in the end, there is also, for every positive, you have to look at the unintended consequences. The unintended consequence is that you sit there today and like Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs, and I know nothing about the Sacramento Kings. Right? LeBron James and the Lakers, and I know nothing about the Portland Trail Blazers. Right? And and I'm talking about the general casual fan. I mean, we can sit there. You want me? I can talk about Portland. I can talk about whatever. But the casual fan doesn't know anything about them. The Washington Wizards, like that. Washington still has a team, really? Okay, great.
Is John Wall still there?
So he's gone. Is
Trevor Ariza still a player around?
I remember they had a gun incident in the locker room.
See Gilbert Arenas, Agent Zero there?
And so it's like, okay. But that's how they promoted themselves to get themselves on the map and become more ingrained. Then the Dream Team helped take it to another level. The Bulls then took it to another level. Right? And so, and that's how they were doing it. But the unintended consequence is it's a big wide world out there, and you have 30 teams. So they try to do this in-season tournament, which I think are they still in it right now? The
in-season tournament is each team is 5 groups, or 5. Each group is 5 teams, and it goes on for a few weeks.
It has no juice.
It's
people are not. Excuse me. I've had nobody come up to me and say, "What do you think of the in-season tournament?" It has no juice. The players don't like it.
Well, that's the thing. That is the one thing that has been discussed. Is that
people don't like the courts. There's a whole bunch of things that are coming up.
What, you don't want to play on a bright red court in Portland?
All right. I'm just saying, in other words, people are like, it's a gimmick. When you're resorting to gimmicks, internally, even you have a problem. So, look, the number 1 sport in the country is the NFL. The number 2 sport in the country, in all likelihood, is college football. The number 3 sport in the country is the NBA. Right? Then after that, we can debate where Major League Baseball and college basketball fall into place. Okay, we can debate that at that point. Then the NHL's after that. But they're resorting to gimmicks. College football isn't resorting to a gimmick, for example. They're just going to a playoff and they're going to expand the playoff. Okay, well, that's what makes what drives sports games. Like, that's what makes this weekend such a big game for both teams. You have and so intriguing to so many people, you have a game with stakes. People like games with stakes. The in-season tournament is a gimmick. And when they announced it, I thought it was a gimmick.
I don't think it's a gimmick as much as it is them trying to make a tradition, but you can't manufacture that. There is an issue with, because of how the NBA has changed in the past decade, with the teams like the Warriors all of a sudden switching into like the big team and making a super team happen, and Kevin Durant and all these things, that brought a lot of eyes to the league. But all of a sudden, the end of that huge run for them before COVID kind of happened and Durant was still there and all of that, the league ran into the issue of load management, and people stopped watching the regular season almost instantaneously.
Right.
And I have thought about this. If Kawhi and the Raptors don't win, I don't think it's an issue. I think people still watch the NBA. But because Kawhi and the Raptors won, and yes, Kawhi's situation with his injuries was all like a whole specific thing.
Right.
Because that happened, other teams said, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can load manage Damian Lillard, the Portland Trailblazers, and maybe he can get through. Maybe we can load manage Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Or we're the Clippers. We can do that with Kawhi and Paul George and Russell Westbrook. And just it built. Yeah. All of a sudden, because of one team, everyone tried doing it. And then people stopped watching games because there was no reason to watch them if you're going to go one night, as we've discussed, in Cleveland, and the Warriors are playing in Cleveland, and all four of the stars for the Warriors are all load managed out for the game. Right. You don't know who you're getting on a given night. The one thing the NBA has done well, which I think the NFL has not done as well as, is that there are a lot more players staying in smaller markets. Giannis stayed in Milwaukee. Now they've got Dame. That's kind of a big thing for them.
Sure.
You look over, let's go Cleveland. Not the biggest place. They've got stars, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, big players who have star potential. Zion Williamson over in New Orleans, of course, should be, but isn't. Dame was in Portland forever. Minnesota's got guys. Like, there are teams in places that are not New York and LA that have stars now, which...
Well, the NFL has everything spread all over the place. My goodness, the Giants and the Jets are two of the worst teams in the NFL. Right? And the Rams are not playing well since their Super Bowl. They haven't played well.
Chargers are the most hit or miss team every single week.
But I'm saying those are the biggest markets in the country, and the Bears are playing tonight, and the Bears, that's the third largest market in the country. So, right? Guess what? Green Bay has a team. They're beloved. Jacksonville's playing pretty well, right? Those are the smaller markets. And that's but he wants them to be covered like the NFL does, where you know about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wow, they got Trevor Lawrence, they got ATN, they've got Walker, they've got Allen, they've got, don't
leave out Andre Sisco on the back end, Syracuse guy.
Okay. Not every team's perfect. So,
Oh, that's okay. He's had a few picks this season.
They
He's
have Brandon
well.
Strange. They have Parker Washington. Okay, but people know about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, and that's what he's aiming for. That people know about all their teams. It's a noble aim, but that means that on your end of it, you've got to do a better job of getting the word out there about it. The networks aren't just going to say, well, he wants all the teams covered, let's just do it. There has to be a demand out there from the public to do it. Whether you can do as much of that these days as the old days is debatable, because media is in a very interesting spot today in the country, between newspapers in the printed world declining, newspapers in the online world trying to survive, social media, and everything that goes with it. So we'll see about that. Now, tonight, the NFL has Carolina and Bears.
Chicago.
46 different quarterbacks in the NFL this season.
10 rookies.
I mean, it's unbelievable how many.
Steve, do you know what college team had a rookie quarterback start a football game this season?
Shepherd. Well, actually, Syracuse.
Syracuse. Tommy DeVito.
Yeah,
I watched him.
Illinois. Thank you.
Illinois. Syracuse guy.
Illinois.
I had to put up with watching him with my team for 3 years of me being in school. And he was just not good.
Well, there are a lot of people that follow the New York Football Giants.
I don't know how he's... I say this as nicely as I can. He was not good.
But remember, what was he supposed to be with the Giants?
The practice squad guy.
Right.
It just, in my head, doesn't make sense that he's somehow made it to the NFL. Like, it's one of those, like, you're here? How did you get here? Like, he's there now. I'm cool with it. But in my head, I'm like, I watched you for 3 years just make terrible mistake after terrible mistake. Just constantly. And somehow, 1 year at Illinois, and now he's in the NFL. I don't get it. Doesn't click. Doesn't make sense.
Well, it doesn't.
Math isn't
again,
mathing.
it's because Daniel Jones is now out for the year with an ACL. Tyrod Taylor's hurt. And Tyrod Taylor, by the way, is a functional NFL quarterback. I'm watching on NFL Red Zone, the Giants-Jets game.
What, Tommy DeVito and Zach Wilson ain't lighting it up for you?
Good Lord, that was just... I thought I was watching a game. I mean, if there was not field turf out there, right, you would think you were watching a game in the 1960s, maybe the 1950s. Okay, so Tommy DeVito is now the 10th rookie quarterback to start a game this year, the most rookie starters we've seen since 1950, and it's week 10. 46 quarterbacks have started a game this year, 14 of whom did not even begin the year as the starter.
And it's only going to grow. That's the thing. There's going to be someone else who starts at some point. It's going to happen. There's going to be an 11th guy.
Tyson Bagent, he'll start tonight. Aiden O'Connell out of Purdue, starting with the Raiders. Clayton Tune, Jaron Hall, Tommy DeVito. Really? I mean, my goodness.
We are scraping the bottom of the barrel.
And the league is built on quarterbacks.
You know what's crazy? No one tried to trade for Jameis Winston. I don't get how that didn't happen. Why didn't someone be like, I would like to take a shot on Jameis? Do you not think Jameis is better than any of the guys you just named?
Yeah.
Give you a better shot. But no one wanted to trade for Jameis. And I was like, huh? The Saints reporters were all like, we're surprised no one came in for Jameis. No one did. That doesn't make sense to me. It feels like someone was going to try and take a shot at him because enough teams were missing quarterbacks. The Vikings, someone made a rumor up. They tried to trade for Jameis, but we're like, they could have. They got Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs, at least he has some starting experience.
It was just like, what? And by the way, New Orleans Saints, how bad we've been, 5-4, lead the division.
But that division last year was won at 7-9.
Yeah, and this is the defense of the New Orleans Saints is one of the best in the NFL.
They're really good. Cam Jordan's a great player.
He's my favorite player of all time. I love him.
Great player that nobody knows about.
One of the best defensive ends in the league. Matt Ryan, the Saints played the Falcons, and Matt Ryan was doing the broadcast, I believe, and he came in and talked with Cam Jordan and was like, Cam, no one hit me more than you. Like, Cam Jordan's the all-time sack leader on a lot of quarterbacks because he just gets to the quarterback constantly. Demario Davis, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. No one talks about him. Marshawn Lattimore, Ohio State guy, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. Doesn't get talked about ever. Paul Adebo this past week, 2 picks, a forced fumble, and all of this stuff. One of the best DBs in the NFL. Never gets talked about. But just, this division's terrible. Our offense looks weirdly inept, which shouldn't make sense when you've got a good quarterback in Derek Carr, a top running back in Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave. Like, you're building up a team. You've got decent tight ends, a decent O-line. Just, this division sucks. Baker Mayfield's in the division. He's there. Desmond Ridder. Remember him? He's a quarterback in this division.
Well, he's not. Yeah, but he's not. He's not starting anymore.
Will Bijan Robinson ever play? Who knows?
I don't know.
Maybe he has a headache today. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's a little weird year in the NFL. The Detroit Lions are 6-2. That's a thing. Better record than the Niners.
No, they are, but I like the Detroit Lions.
Oh, I love them too. It's just it feels like it haven't been discussing this enough. The Detroit Lions, the team that for years was laughing stock.
Right.
Even with Stafford, it was like their defense might just give out one day and just nothing is going to happen out with this defense. Now their defense is great. Their offense is great. They've got Jahmyr Gibbs. He's pretty darn good. Yeah. Jared Goff has revived himself. But no one's discussing it.
Right.
Because the Giants stink. The Jets stink. Rodgers might come back this season if he's got a miracle worker, which I guess he is. CJ Stroud and the Texans, they look really good.
Yeah.
He's played real well.
Stroud's played, but he's played the way I thought he would. Remember last year I was talking about, hey, look, there's all this debate whether to draft him or not. I said, look, I've watched this guy play. Mm-hmm. He's incredibly accurate with the football. Even when he moves, he's accurate.
Mm-hmm. But no one's talking about it.
Yeah. Well, the comeback, I think people talk about because the comeback is outstanding.
But people talk more about the Denver Broncos than pretty much three quarters of the teams in the NFL. Well, Broncos are 3-5 and are a downright bad team.
And who do they have at quarterback?
Let him cook is who they have.
Russell Wilson.
Yeah, let him cook. Let Russ cook.
They have a big name.
They got the big name coach in Sean Payton. It is weirdly exhausting with the NFL coverage because so much happens in the NFL. As you said, it's only so many games in a season. There's only so many things that happen. And it's just week on week. Who's coming back? Kyler Murray's coming back this week for the Cardinals. They're 1-8, but they still have a shot at the division. It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense to me.
Jonathan Gannon, by the way, has done a good job with that defense. I mean, they've played well defensively. Offensively, it's been a struggle, which you expected. And that's not an unexpected thing to happen with them. But it's a weird year. Philadelphia has a great record, and I feel like they're playing B+ to A- football. Mm-hmm. They're better than the people they play. Mm-hmm. They got huge breaks against Dallas. One was early in the game on a fourth down. I mean, Hurts is down about 2 to 2.5 yards short of the mark. They downed him about a yard away. Like going, okay, it wasn't the right spot. Which they're like, what, a gutsy move? Well, it's not as gutsy when it's 4th and 1 at your own whatever, as opposed to 4th and 2.5. Right? They got that one, and then they were fortunate that Dallas is Dallas. Okay.
Dallas is Dallas.
They have talent, but they get in their own way. But the Eagles got in their own way too. Pass interference call, an offside call, like they're giving up all these yards as Dallas is going downfield, and like Philadelphia's not playing smart, poised football. The Chiefs are really good, but they're not perfect. Miami can be exciting, but if their offense isn't cooking that day, they're not good.
Buffalo is, you don't know what you're going to get on a given basis now.
You don't know what you're going to get out of them all the time.
The Steelers somehow 5-3. How that happened, we don't know.
I've got to wonder if they sit down in a coaches meeting and I wonder if even they know. T.J. Watt. Okay, here's a great stat for you. Mm-hmm. T.J. Watt has 22 tackles for the whole season. That's it, 22. So they're 5-3?
5-3, and they're second in the division.
So he's averaging fewer than 3 tackles a game. Mm-hmm. But 9.5 of those 22 are sacks.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we are the consummate one-trick pony. But
somehow,
some way it works, as they've been playing without Minka Fitzpatrick.
Also, the Bengals in division. The Bengals they were 0-2, 1-3, something like that, and now they're 5-3. The Browns, Deshaun Watson's been terrible.
I know.
They've been playing guys who Dorian Thompson.
Oh, DTR.
Yeah. He's been playing. They're 5-3. Yeah. Miles, they're the best defense in the NFL. Myles Garrett is a stud.
Yeah.
The Colts didn't have Jonathan Taylor for a while. He's back. They're 4-5 now.
And don't have Richardson.
The Raiders, I guess, had a tell-all meeting where they basically said our coach is terrible. And then the linebackers...
They said it to his face.
To his face. The linebacker coach comes up and says, yeah, but in the building, we don't believe we should win, but we always believe we should win. And when I was part of the 2007 Giants... And then the coach says, don't you dare bring up the Giants team.
Antonio Pierce. Yeah. Don't you dare bring up that team. Excuse me, you played the game. You coached the game. You lost.
Yeah. That might be the wildest thing that's happened this season. Is they had a meeting like this. Oh. Every player said to the coach's face, he's terrible. Antonio Pierce comes up to defend Josh McDaniels. Yeah. Defends him.
Right. And they get into a fight.
Verbally. Because McDaniel says, how dare you bring that up? Dude, read the room.
Okay, read the room. You're not doing well here. There's no people going to go, hey, you know what? You ought to back off, Josh. They're like, nah, keep going. But the Raiders get rid of the coach and the general manager. Right?
But, yeah.
$85 million because they both had long-term contracts.
Also, they're technically paying 3 head coaches. They're still paying Gruden out.
I know.
And this is all after last season. They had a coaching thing, or 2 seasons ago, and they decided not to bring in Rich Bisaccia, who, by all means, was going to be their coach. And they said, no, we don't want him. For what reason, we don't know. And then Mark Davis says, yeah, now we're gonna trust the process with Antonio Pierce. Finally, he says it.
They just bring in the Bengals defensive coordinator. That guy's busted his backside. He's put himself, to me, in a really good spot. A lot of people think he's a head coach because, D'Amico Ryans is already taken. He's doing a great job with the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's like settle on a guy, give him a 3-year contract. Don't give him a 10-year deal. Mm-hmm. We're going to give Josh McDaniels this long-term contract. Over here in the back, I saw the Broncos experience. Why? Because he's older now?
Mm-hmm. You know what also is happening this season that I think is just really funny and we should at least discuss a little bit? Do you know who owns the top 2 picks currently in the NFL draft next season?
I think the Bears, don't they?
The Bears. Yeah. Or they did. They did for a little bit. Now they're 2 and 7. They own number 2 and number 3.
Say you have the top 2 picks. Mm-hmm. Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to have some knucklehead say, well, no, you've got to be able to bring in a lineman, a defense. And over here in the back, I can draft those guys. Mm-hmm. I can't draft a franchise quarterback and a wide receiver. Gee, here's my template. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, could they have had Penei Sewell? Yes. And is Penei Sewell helping the Detroit Lions? Tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bengals were in the Super Bowl in part because they drafted the quarterback and, in today's game, a big-time... remember, what is today's game? Okay? A big-time wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I had the first 2 picks, I'd go Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. Wouldn't mess around with it.
No. They are sitting in such a weird position where they... you don't see NFL teams often have 2 top picks in the draft. The Texans did it last year, got Stroud and Will Anderson. Which, again, but doesn't happen often.
Right. And it's fine because it was not a Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft.
No.
So Will Anderson's a big help to them.
He's a big help to them. They got the quarterback, and they got a guy on each side of the ball that sets the tone.
Right.
Going into this draft, the Bears let's say they have 2 and they have 3. Let's say they don't get 1 for whatever reason. Let's say Caleb Williams goes first because that's just going to happen.
Right.
Marvin Harrison, and then, I don't know, give me pretty much anybody on the O-line. It's like Olu. Olu will be a fun pick.
Sure.
He's going top 10.
Yep, no doubt. And he's playing like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing like that.
If some team doesn't take Marvin Harrison top 3 in the draft, I will be thoroughly surprised.
Oh, you have to.
He's got to be in contention for the first overall pick, I would at least assume, in part.
Depends on who the quarterback of the team is that has the first overall pick. For example, let's just say, because Carolina's playing the Bears tonight, let's say Carolina, for whatever reason, falls into place.
But their pick is the Bears' pick now.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, say it was a team like that. Mm-hmm. They've got Bryce Young.
Yeah.
So you're not going to draft a quarterback. If it's a team that doesn't have to draft a quarterback, then you draft him.
I have a question for you, because this is now being brought up and was discussed at the trade deadline in part. I don't know how I got here, but The Arizona Cardinals are 1-8 currently. Kyler Murray is about to come back, but there has been a discussion of if they have the first pick, do you stay with Kyler or do you get Caleb Williams? If you are in that position, what do you do? I mean, you're about to pay this dude a lot of money, Kyler. His contract starts next season, his huge money deal.
Let's see if I can make a trade.
But he just had major surgery on his back, I think.
I'm just saying, I want to see if I can make a trade to open the door. But then I also do want to talk with Caleb Williams' people and say, and now today players in college have people. If we draft him, is he willing to come here? Because he's not out of eligibility at USC. He is making some pretty decent coin off his NIL at USC. He can sit there if he wants, and he can pick and choose as to what, whether he goes to the NFL or not, because he's looking around saying, okay, financially, if I stay, I'm okay. If I go, okay, I've got a chance at more money, but it's not as if I'm, if I stay, I'm just a poor college kid. He's not, because of name, image, and likeness. Thus, he has options. And the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL know that. All right. Now, it's been a frustrating season for him. We can talk about all the USC defensive woes that have come up, but these go back both years. Okay, this is not This is not a new trend. In the offseason, what did I say over and over again about USC? Don't get fooled by all the takeaways. They're not a good defensive football team. Right? They're like, look at that defense. Look at the takeaways. Oh, for goodness sakes, I'm watching the Pac-12 championship game. And Utah's going up and down the field, up and down the field. Did they go up and down the field against Penn State's defense? No. Okay? Did not. But doom. Tulane up and down the field. Doom. I mean, you got a quarterback out there producing a lot of points. Well, this year, Caleb Williams, you can't always play at that magical level all the time. Well, he hasn't played at the magical level the entire time. He's had really good moments, but he's also been inconsistent. He's made more mistakes this year.
He's been human.
Right. He's made more mistakes. Not a boatload, but he's made more. And it's not enough to overcome a frustrating defensive team to play for. He obviously loves his coach. They have a lot of talent, with Bryce at wide receiver and everybody that they have, including with the freshman kid who's a tremendous player.
Zachariah Branch.
Yeah, Branch. Branch is a terrific kick returner and can be a dynamic player on offense. Right, so he's got some things like that going for him, but he's frustrated because they're not winning and they're not putting themselves in a position to play for the championship. Next up, right, he's got a long list of things he has to look at. Okay, if I stay at USC, I'm going to be able. I have my NIL money. Box checked. I'm playing for Lincoln Riley. I like doing that. Box checked. Okay. I like being in Los Angeles. Boom. Box checked. Okay. So these are all boxes that are being checked. Good. Right. But now let's get to the next part. NFL. I don't like the team that might draft me. Okay. I can stay at USC. Box checked. But now let's go to the negatives. Okay. The negatives will be, okay, I'm at USC. We're playing in the Big Ten next year. Okay. And I've got to travel to Maryland. I've got to travel to Rutgers. I've got to travel to Michigan. I've got Penn State coming in. Right? You know what I mean? And it's a different dynamic. I have to learn to play against all these other teams. Plus, there's going to be a lot of travel involved in doing it on a weekly basis. Okay. So he'll have some interesting options. So if you're back to your original about the Cardinals, right? Number one, you're not going to get a first-round pick for Kyler Murray. You're not going to.
It's going to be one of those seconds and sevenths and swapping weird stuff around.
You might get a third and a sixth or a seventh for him and maybe another draft pick in a different year.
I think we got a third and a fifth for a fourth. with Kyler is what he would go for.
Right. But I would want to talk with the Williams camp and get a read. Like, hey, are you because 1 week after the national championship game, you have to declare. So if he declares and puts himself in, it's not like he can't pull his name out. Now you're saying, well, gee, what would his play be? Well, here's the play. I don't put my name in. All right. I go through spring practice. I then discuss with the NFL the possibility of putting my name into the supplemental draft.
That'd be wild if that happened.
Which means it's the exact same draft order. Okay? And then you start going through, and you lose the draft pick where he's picked. So when the Cleveland Browns picked Bernie Kosar in the supplemental draft, it was a first-round pick. They lost their first-round pick the next year. So that's what they would be doing. If he ends up going in the third round, you lose your third-round pick. He's not going in the third round.
No.
But that's the play that you make in all this, where now you hold off declaring, you go through spring practice, you kind of look around and say, you know what, maybe I'll just put my name in the supplemental draft. They'll say, what's your hardship? I said, I play at USC with their defense.
Oof.
I'm just explaining what the options are. I'm not. Yeah.
By the way, I want to give a shout out here. Do you know who the punter for the Arizona Cardinals is?
Blake Gilligan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I miss him on the Saints. I miss him.
Oh, he was great here.
I miss him. I miss Will Lutz.
He changed. Lutz is now with the Broncos. Yeah. He changed here. When he came in here, his ability to flip the field was a big deal. And it was a big deal to James because they couldn't really do that before. And it cost them a couple of games because there was a certain way that James had wanted to play, the whole field position, defense, the whole thing. And he didn't quite have the punting game to do it. When Blake came here, it gave him that ability to then give him more options as to how he wanted to play the chess match. And Blake, by the way, is a terrific athlete. In the Ohio State game that Penn State won in 2016, everybody remembers the Marcus Allen block and the Grant Haley touchdown. What people forget is the great athletic play that Blake made that ended up being a safety instead of a touchdown on a bad snap. Right? Like, there are things that, in that game, the big wide world of that game, there was more to it than just the one play which everybody remembers. And justifiably, everybody remembers. Like the Godwin catch for a touchdown at the end of the first half, the block punt by Cam Brown when Penn State was setting up a return. But Gilligan made this really terrific athletic play that resulted in a safety and not a touchdown. And Blake was a really good athlete. And is a really good athlete.
He is.
But yeah, he is. I was listening to the Browns-Cardinals game on Sunday, and in fact, my buddy Paul Keels, who does Ohio State, Donovan's been out as the play-by-play guy because he has leukemia. So Paul's been filling in. And, of course, I've always said if I need somebody to play, we're casting a play, we need somebody in the play to play from the heavens the voice of God. I would be like, Paul Keels. Noah.
But what matters for me, as a Saints fan for a few years there, it was tough sledding watching Saints football because we just should have been better. But there was nothing that brought me more joy than watching Blake Gilligan hit a 80-yard bomb that ended up at the 3-yard line and being like, that right there, that is why I love talking about punting so much. It's fun.
Yeah, but you know what? Why do kickers move around? They get to a certain financial point and teams will go for the cheaper option that they feel could still kick the ball. And that's the reason why they move.
That is it.
Why isn't Robbie Gould kicking for the 49ers this year?
Money.
Why do I have a rookie in Jake Moody? Okay. All right, tomorrow we will have Bill Bender's Sporting News, and we'll have Neil Coulong tomorrow. Monday, Bob Nightingale on baseball meetings that aren't taking place because I think there was food poisoning, so they canceled the meetings, but we'll talk to Bob anyway.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk